Hello everyone, my name is Ella. Welcome to another Loki discussion video. Now today we will be talking about Loki episode 2, The Variant. So if you have not seen that episode yet, go ahead and pause this video, go watch that episode, and then come back to join me. Now, in a desperate attempt to not post another 36-minute long discussion video, I tried to take as few notes as possible this time to really highlight the important parts of this episode, because I don't think people want to sit through 36 minutes of me yammering about Loki. So let's just jump right into this. First of all, I just want to get this out in the clear because I know a lot of people think the song is overused and that it's dramatic and that it wasn't necessary, but I personally liked the holding out for a hero montage with the fight at the beginning. I thought it was funny, I thought it was iconic, and I think it was a great opener for the episode. Also, Miss Minutes, just like as a whole, I think she's really fun, but then the fact that she was like a physical character in this episode that could like physically interact with Loki, comedic genius. I love it. On a more serious note, I think it's really cool that we got to see Loki really becoming part of a team in this episode, which I know we learn later on was a complete facade, which it disappoints me a little bit, but that's also because I have to keep reminding myself that this is not the Loki that has changed. Like, this is still like the 2012 mischievous Loki, so that is completely in character for him. But I like that we got to see Loki kind of becoming part of the team, getting a jacket and everything like that, and that we also got to see Loki kind of explaining his powers and his magical prowess and stuff like that. Because, for one, we never really got any kind of explanation or anything in any of the previous Marvel movies with Loki. It was just kind of known that Loki had magic and that there were different spells and enchantments that he could do. But the show is really exploring this, and they're explaining different magical abilities, explaining the different Loki variants that exist, which we'll get into a little bit more because I have some thoughts. But I think it's really cool, and I hope that they continue to touch on it because I know that's something that a lot of people have wanted, not necessarily just from the show, but especially from the show, as well as the other movies, was that we wanted more of Loki using magic. Like, we got it in like the first Thor movie, and then that was pretty much it. Then it was basically all just kind of like, haha, Loki uses daggers and that's what he does. So yeah, I hope that we continue to get to see Loki using magic, even if it's just little things like drying himself off in the rocks cart at the end of the episode, or making a robot vacuum fly into his hand. Like, I don't know, I just want more magic Loki. Also, quick note about the different Loki variants. I like how they very briefly gave everyone what they wanted, which was seeing Loki as a frost giant, and it was literally just like a 2-second clip of the little hologram of the different Loki variants, and one of them was Loki as his frost giant self. I wanted more than that, but, you know, I know they're crunched for time with the series and stuff like that, so that's probably the only frost giant Loki that we're gonna get in the show, and I'm just gonna have to accept that. Skipping over to the scene where they go back to the Renaissance Fair in 1985, I just wanted to make a note about the quote that Loki gives from Asgard. And looking back on it after having watched the episode, I don't even know if it was a real quote, because that whole scene he was obviously just trying to get a rise out of them and distract them to help the other Loki variant. But the quote was, where there are wolf's ears, wolf's teeth are near. And I just want to say that that's a badass quote. I don't care if he made it up on the spot, because even if he did, that's badass. Don't really have much else to say on that scene because I'm going to address a little bit of it later when I talk about the Loki variant reveal at the end. So I'm going to skip over to the scene of Mobius talking with the judge, and I think this is the first episode that we actually get her name. I know it has been revealed in like press releases and stuff like that and some information, but her name is Ravonna Renslayer, who is a character in the comics. I'm gonna verge into some spoilery areas here, so if you don't want any spoilers, I don't, but this is just information that I know because I have been told it. But she, if I remember correctly, is romantically involved with one of the timekeepers. So I think it'll be interesting to see how that comes into play. I know she did mention in this episode that she has other TVA analysts that bring her stuff from their missions and stuff like that. So I'm curious to see if it really is another analyst or if it might even be one of the timekeepers themselves that is bringing her these things. Also, a little note in this scene, I noticed that the coaster that she handed to Mobius was shaped like a hexagon. Now, I know we are past WandaVision and the hex and everything like that, but there have been several instances, again, of hexagons in the Loki show. There's that, and then I believe in one of the TVA posters, there is a hexagonal shape as well. I can't remember which one it is. I think it might be the person with, like, the glowing eyes that's in the background of one of the scenes, but I think it'll be interesting to see if hexagons are important again or if that's just like a callback reference to WandaVision. Either way, I just thought it was worthy of noting. Skipping back over to talk about Loki a little bit more, I think it is absolutely hilarious how he knows he's in trouble and is trying to cover for himself. And I just want to state again how absolutely unconvinced I was that Loki was going to work as a comedic character, and this episode once again proved me wrong. Like, I don't know if it's just the fact that it's Tom Hiddleston or if it is the fact that Loki is getting the chance to exist as his own character, but he's so funny. It is hilarious. Just, he has so many, like, lines and, like, character quirks, like things that he does or the way that he says things or does things are just hilarious. And I think this might be the funniest, actually, of the 3 shows that they've released so far. I feel like WandaVision was much more of it wasn't necessarily a drama. Falcon and the Winter Soldier was 100% more of a drama, but I feel like WandaVision was a good marriage of drama and sitcom, whereas Loki feels very much a sitcom with moments of drama. So, like, I guess they're kind of switched. Like, WandaVision was very dramatic with a lot of comedic moments, and then I feel like Loki so far is very comedic with a sprinkling of dramatic moments. But I love it. I love how funny this show is. Like, I have never laughed as hard as I have at this Loki show than I have with any, like, none of the other shows have been this funny to me. Not even the funniest episodes of WandaVision had me laughing as hard as they did at 3 a.m. as I've laughed watching these first 2 episodes of Loki. I said I didn't take a lot of notes, and really I didn't, but I did take a lot of notes that are just like, I love him, meaning Loki, and that's sprinkled in here like 5 different times. And then just random, he's an idiot, what is he doing, just stuff like that. So, like, I made notes very vaguely in the hopes that I would just not talk about them. So I'm not going to talk about them, and instead I'm going to focus on the notes that I took more information on, like the scene where Loki is in the library and he's given his own file because that's the only file he has access to. And really, this is just me singing the compliments of Tom Hiddleston's acting chops again, because just the way, I don't know how he does it, but that one, like, close-up shot of his eyes when he's reading about the destruction of Asgard, and you can literally see the tears forming in his eyes. As an actor myself, I don't know how he does it. I don't know how he does it. He's pure acting genius. That's all I can say. He gives me emotions. Skipping back over to a more comedic side of Loki, tagging onto that library scene, we have the scene in the cafeteria with Loki explaining to Mobius how he thinks that the variant is hiding basically in front of catastrophic events. And I really just think the whole salad scene was hilarious. Like, there's something so funny about seeing a character that has usually been seen as so serious and so broken and angry as Loki is, just absolutely making a 180 and just doing the most ridiculous things. Like, the whole just that whole scene, but like just particularly, I don't know why, but the salt and pepper shaker, him just sitting there like that with a salt and pepper shaker and just like casually talking while he's doing it, hilarious. I don't know. I really, really love the comedy in this show. Like, I'm not a big, like, comedy person. Like, I'll watch, like, funny stuff on YouTube if it's, like, Vine compilations or TikTok compilations, but I don't like, if I were to pick a movie at a theater, it wouldn't be a comedy. But this is my favorite of the Marvel shows so far. And I love the comedy. Maybe it's the type of comedy. Maybe it's the fact that it's Loki doing the comedy. I don't know. But I really, really love this show. I love this show. Also, that was just a really clever way to explain what he was trying to say in a way that both Mobius could get it and the audience could get it. Not to say that either us or Mobius is stupid, but it definitely helps to have like a visual representation of what someone is trying to explain to understand it better. So really, it worked. Mayhaps I was a little too vague in my notes because I'm looking at them and literally all they say is wait, shit, wait. So, not helpful to me at all. But I think the next thing that I wanted to talk about was... this is just me singing the praises of Tom Hiddleston again, but I cannot believe how effortlessly that man spoke Latin, and I've heard that it's like the proper Latin, not the Christianized Latin that's pronounced all funky. So I would really just like to sing his praises and the praises of everyone that made sure that everything was historically accurate and pronounced correctly. Like, that's such a minor detail, and they absolutely could have fudged it, or they could have taken the easy way out and used Christian pronunciation, and they didn't. Like, they stayed true to history, and that is so, so important, and I admire them for it. I did also like the discussion after Pompeii, where they were kind of, picking each other's brains about the existence of the TVA and the existence of time and how people come to be and how weird it is to think about how people come into existence if you think about it for too much. And I'm really glad that Loki brought up the fact that if the TVA has created this timeline and they know how everything is, how everything was, and how everything is going to be, that there's basically no concept of free will, because that is something that my brother and I discussed after the first episode. Because if they are creating this timeline and they know how everyone's story is going to play out, there's no self-agency there. You can't do anything. And I guess normally you wouldn't know because most people wouldn't know about the existence of the TVA, but like in Loki's case, once you know that the TVA exists and you learned that everything you have done was meant to happen and you had no agency in that at all, like, it's disturbing. It's absolutely disturbing. And I'm really curious to see if they continue to address it, because every time they bring up the TVA and how it works or how people work with the TVA and stuff like that, like every time it has been mentioned, it's like blown off. Or I can't remember if I mentioned this in the last video, but there are 2 instances in the first episode where they bring up the TVA or what the TVA does, and it's almost like there's a record scratch and the conversation immediately changes. The most pressing of these is when they're in the Time Theater and Mobius and Loki are speaking, and I think it's kind of the same concept Loki mentions about whether or not there's any right or wrong or like free will or something like that, and Mobius goes to answer and he trails off and then just immediately changes the subject, and it's just like, wait a second, what happened there? Like, did the timekeepers change what was happening in real time? Like, what happened there? And I feel like this kind of happened also in this episode too, because Mobius was talking about how it wasn't a matter of believing and not believing in the TVA, and then he immediately changes the conversation. Like, something is going on with the TVA. I don't know what it is, and I don't know what's going to happen with it, but I really think we deserve more information about the TVA, and I hope we get it throughout the rest of the series. There's not really anything else of note after that, so I'm just going to go ahead and skip over to basically the last scene, so the whole rocks cart scene. I think, like I mentioned earlier, Loki did a very good job of convincing both the TVA and the viewers, I feel, that he really wanted to be working with the TVA and really wanted to help them, because I was thoroughly convinced that Loki was turning over a new leaf, and he made it very obvious that he is not. So, like I said, I personally was a little disappointed, but that's also because I think I'm still trying to train my brain to remember that this is not Ragnarok Loki. This is a Loki that has not really gone through all that change yet. Like, he kind of watched it happen, like a speed through on the little TVA theater, but he never really experienced the character arc that he did in the actual timeline. So that was just a me thing. Like, it totally is in character, and it totally makes sense that Loki would want to take over the TVA. I keep trying to think about how I'm going to address it, so I'm just going to say it right now. I'm a little disappointed with the Loki reveal, like the variant reveal, and let me explain why. Because as I mentioned, I can't remember if it was my last video or if it was the video where I talked about what I wanted from the Loki show. I don't think she looks like Lady Loki. If she's supposed to be Lady Loki, I'm disappointed, because I really wanted her to look like comic book Lady Loki. So that's disappointing. But I will say, I think we have figured out through internet sleuthing and also from Disney Plus accidentally letting something slip, that I don't think that that is Lady Loki at all. At least not the Lady Loki that everyone was expecting her to be. And let me explain. So, as we know in the episode, when she is revealed, she is blonde. Yes, she has the Loki helm, and yes, she has a outfit on that is very reminiscent of Loki's armor from Asgard. But she also mentions that she doesn't want to be called Loki, and she also just doesn't, like, her magic that she uses, like her glowing green hands and everything like that, doesn't feel very Loki. Now, the end credits, I believe it was for the Castellano end credits, so Spanish end credits. This character, most of the other languages in their end credits, they either referenced her as the variant, or they don't have her listed on the end credits at all, which I think is a smart move. But the Castellano end credits let slip that her character name is Sylvie. Now, Sylvie Lushton is a character that has been the Enchantress in the Marvel Comics, second only to Amora the Enchantress. Sylvie Lushton is a name that I recognized because that is a name that Amora gives to a character in Loki Where Mischief Lies, because she has to give a fake name so that they can get train tickets to get on this train with a bunch of dead bodies so that they can reanimate the bodies to invade Asgard. It's a whole convoluted plot. That's the basics of it. But Sylvie Lushton is the name that she gives. So I'm not saying that I think that this is Sylvie Lushton or that this is the Enchantress. But if it is, I'm going to feel proud, because that's exactly what I wanted. I wanted her to be the Enchantress. And I feel like it could be. I feel like she could be, especially if they're being very specific about not listing her on the end credits as Lady Loki and not listing her at all in the end credits, or only referencing her as the variant. I feel like we don't know the whole story. I feel like we have where they're wanting us to go, which obviously they want us to think that she is a Loki variant, and she may very well be a Loki variant. She does have, like I said, she's dressed like Loki. She has the Loki helm. But that doesn't necessarily mean that she's Loki. And it could be Amora posing as Loki in another alternate reality. Like, we don't have enough information yet. And there has been a leak, I'm guessing it's a leak because it's not from either of the episodes that we've seen so far, of like file information. And it has her name, but instead of Sylvie Lushton, It says Sylvie Laufey-daughter. So, I have several friends in the Marvel community that think that she might be a twin of Loki, and that's why they are technically both Loki. Maybe she was sent to an alternate universe. Maybe she goes by Sylvie Lushton, like, on Earth, but her real name is Sylvie Laufey-daughter. I don't know. We don't know. They could literally go anywhere with this. So I'm very interested with her character, and I think once I got past the shock of, like, thinking that she doesn't look like Loki, and, like, once I came to terms with the fact that she might not really be Lady Loki at all, because that was my main hang-up. Like, I don't think she looks like Loki at all, and she definitely doesn't look like Lady Loki, so that's where my hesitancy was coming from. But again, I think we just don't know enough about her yet to be able to have any kind of solid yes or no, this is Lady Loki. So I'm very excited to see what happens in the next episode. I think we're going to get that scene that everyone thinks was Natasha sitting on Vormir. I think we're going to get that in this next episode where it's her sitting with Loki. And really, I just hope we get more answers in the next episode because, frankly, I have no idea where this show is going. I know we saw the big reveal at the end of the episode where she set off the bombs throughout the timeline and just fractured the timeline infinitely, and so we have no idea what that's going to lead to, except possibly a multiversal war, which we will see in Multiverse of Madness. Who knows? But even that, like, we had little to no explanation for that, so we really have no idea what's going to happen with her, or with the timeline, or with our Loki. So I really just cannot wait for the next episode. I think they have laid out some really cool plans, and I think it's going to be really cool to see how they unfold throughout the rest of this season, and hopefully more seasons, because I know it is rumored that we're going to get 2, maybe 3 seasons of Loki, so I can't wait. Alright, it looks like I managed to make this one shorter than 30 minutes, so that was my goal. I think I covered everything that I wanted to talk about. If not, I will tag it on into my next episode next week about episode 3. So that will do it for this video. If you watch me for Marvel, I'll be back next Friday with my discussion for episode 3 of Loki. And if you follow me for my regular content, I will be back this Wednesday with a video talking about my story existing in the LGBTQ community in celebration of Pride Month. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and if you'd like to be notified of when I post a new video, go ahead and click that little notification bell down there. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Bye!